first part is the introduction. Some expositors consider the Epistle of John to be the final book of the Bible. It certainly John's epistles are the last which he wrote. The three epistles are called letters, yet the first epistle is not in the form or style of a letter. It has no salutation as its beginning, nor greeting at its conclusion. Its style is more that of a sermon. It bears all the marks of a message from a devoted pastor who had love and concern for a definite group of believers. John served as pastor of the church in Ephesus, which was founded by Paul. It has been the belief of the church down through the years that John wrote his gospel first. This epistle second, and finally the revelation just before his death. However, in recent years, some of us have come to the position that John wrote this epistle last. Therefore, he wrote his first epistle after his imprisonment on the island of Patmos. This place says the date about AD 100. John died in Ephesus and was buried there. And the Basilica of St. John was built over the grave of John by Justin in the 5th century. To understand the first epistle of John, we must show something about the city of Ephesus at the beginning of the 2nd century. It was very much like your city or hometown today. There were 4 important factors which prevailed in Ephesus and throughout the Roman Empire. Number 1, there was an easy familiarity with Christianity. Many of the believers were children and grandchildren of the first Christians. The new and bright sheen of the Christian faith had become tarnished. The newness had worn off. The thrill and glory of the first days had faded. My, how exciting it had been to be a believer on that day when Paul had come to town and challenged Diana of the Ephesians. The whole town had been in an uproar. In Acts chapter 19, we read of the effect Paul's teaching had upon the synagogue at Ephesus, and also the impact of his daily sessions in the school of Tyrannus for 2 years. How fervent their love and zeal for Christ had been in those days. But many years later, when the Lord Jesus sent a letter to the Ephesian believers through John while he was in exile on the island of Patmos, he said, "Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love." Revelation chapter 2 and verse 4. It was as Jesus had long before warned, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14. The Ephesian devotion and dedication to Christ was at a low ebb. Number 2, the high standards of Christianity made the Christians different. The Christian and grandchildren of the first Christians did not want to be be different. The believers were called saints from the Greek word hagios. The primary intent of the word is set aside for the sole use of God, that which belongs to God. The pots and pans in the temple were said to be holy because they were for the use of God. The temple was hagios. The Sabbath was hagios. Now the Christians were to be hagios, or different, set aside for the use of God. But the Ephesians had become assembly line Christians, programmed by the computer of compromise. They had become plastic Christians. They were cast in a different mold from the disciples to whom Jesus had said, "If you were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you." John chapter 15, verse 19. And also in his high priestly prayer to his Father uh, are these words: "I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world." John chapter 17 and verse 14. There was a breakdown of the Judeo-Christian ethics and the disregard for Bible standards. Number three, persecution was not the enemy of Christianity. The danger to the Ephesian church was not persecution from the outside, but seduction from inside. The Lord Jesus himself had warned of this. "For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect." Matthew chapter 24 and verse 24. And the Apostle Paul had said to the Ephesians leaders, "For I know this, that after my departure shall grievous wolves uh, enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples after them." Acts chapter 20, verse 29 and 30. Christianity was not in danger of being destroyed. It was in danger of being changed. The attempt was being made to improve it. Intellectual respectability uh, and let it speak in the term of popular philosophy. Number four, Gnosticism was a real enemy of Christianity, and my friend, it still is. Gnosticism was the basic philosophy of the Roman Empire. Gnosticism took many forms, however, one primary principle ran through this philosophy: matter, or material, was essentially evil. Only the spirit was good. All the material world was considered evil. Therefore, Gnosticism despised the body. They held that in the body was a spirit, like a seed in the dirty soil. The same principle is in modern liberalism, which maintains that there is a spark of good in everyone, and that each person is to develop that spark of good. The Gnostics sought to cause the seed, the spirit within them, to grow and try to get rid of the evil in the body. There were two extreme methods of accomplishing their goals as practiced by the Stoics and the Epicureans. The Apostle Paul's encounter with these two sects is recorded in Acts chapter 17 and verse 18. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him and said, "What will this babbler say?" Some He seemeth to be a setting forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection. The Stoics were disciples of Zeno, and their name came from the painted uh, portico at Athens where Zeno lectured. They were pantheons who held that the wise man should be free from passion, unmoved by joy or grief, and submissive to natural law. They observed rigid rules and self discipline. The Epicureans took their name from the Epicurus who taught in Athens. They accepted the Greek gods on Mount Olympus. They considered pleasure rather than truth to pursue the pursuit of life. Originally, they sought to satisfy intellectual, not sensual gratification, but later they taught their followers to satisfy the body's desires so it wouldn't bother them anymore. There were all shades of differences between the two extremes in Stoicism and Epicureanism, but all of them denied the uh, messiahship of Jesus. I believe John had them in mind when he wrote, "Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son." 1 John chapter 2 and verse 22. They denied the incarnation. Uh, uh, Reasoning that God could not have taken a human body because all flesh is evil. Therefore, John distinctly declares, "And the Word was made or born flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." John chapter 1 and verse 14. And in his epistle, he wrote, "Hereby know ye the Spirit of God, every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that confesses not the that Jesus Christ is come into the flesh is not God, and that is that spirit of antichrist. Therefore ye have heard that it should come, and even now already it is it in the world." 1 John chapter 4, verse 2 and 3. Dissentic Gnosticism considered the incarnation impossible since God could not unite himself with anything evil, such as the body. Taught that Jesus only seemed to have a body, but actually he did not. For example, when he walked, he left no footprints. Cerinthus was more subtle in his teaching. He declared that there was both a human Jesus and a divine Christ, that divinity came upon him at his baptism and left him at the cross. In fact, the Gospel of Peter, which is a spurious book, translates the words of Jesus on the cross like this: my power, why hast thou forsaken me?" And